People always think football is 11 on 11. It's 12 on 12. It's your coach calling the plays versus their coach. And Kyle Shanahan is better than like 31 of them. Maybe Andy Reid. You got Kendrick Bourne.
Out here looking like a friggin' Devontae Smith.
Exactly.
And now NFL IQ with Cynthia Frelund and Logan Ryan.
Welcome to the Week 8 NFL IQ show. I'm Cynthia Frelund. This is my very good friend, Logan Ryan. How are you doing this? By the way, before we get started, people need to smash that subscribe button. Make sure that you're following on every single platform. Of course, we have our new YouTube home. It is at the NFL IQ show. So make sure you're subscribed there so you get this, like the minute it drops, you know what's going on. You know where Logan is. You know where I am. And hey, how's it going, my friend?
It's going great. I don't know if you saw, we got a new fan of the show. Denzel Ward reposted the clip, how I talked about how he's the most underrated corner. He loved it. He's a fan of the pod. He understands what he is, and he's essentially telling the whole league by agreeing and posting it that he is the most underrated corner in football.
Well, I think, like, number one, if you were going to not agree with that, we'd have some problems. But I think it's very cool that he reposted it because maybe we just added a little fuel to that fire. Did you see how well the Browns played against with the Dolphins were a little bit of a mess, but it doesn't matter because he still had a heck of a game in weather, in conditions. So he's proving our point. He's proving his own point. It's all great. So I don't know, big fan of that. So he's going to repost it this week. So should we start with a segment that we're going to call Defying the Math, where we're going to look at a couple of teams' records now that we're on week 8, sort of about to be the fake halfway point because, whatever, math, 8.5 games, whatever. But ultimately, some records right now feel a little fake, but some feel a little bit real. Like, let's first start. We have to start with the Kansas City Chiefs because 3-3, I don't know if we would, 4-3, excuse me. I don't know if we would have thought that would be a Chiefs outcome at this point, near 500. Are we saying, like, are they back to Super Bowl contender status? Where do you fall? Because my numbers say that so long as this defense stays kind of in this trajectory that they're having, which is getting a little bit better every game, and you're getting the protection for Patrick Mahomes, meaning he has time to make those throws, that right now it's, Super Bowl or bust for them, or playoffs, I guess, or bust, because I do think the seeding will matter in the AFC.
The way these last 2 weeks have went for them, if you want to progress throughout the season, yeah, they look like they can be some Super Bowl contenders again, right? And quick to write them off, we always are. But it's because what they're doing on both sides of the ball. The defense is dominant. To pitch a shutout is really hard in the NFL. To not let the other team kick a field goal when everyone has a 50, 60-yard leg now, you're pretty much not letting them cross midfield. And then a lot of times what happens, in my 11 years, I've only had one shutout. In 11 years. I think that was Andy Reid's first shutout in his coaching history. Because when you are blowing somebody out where the game is safe and you take the starters out, to have the backups go in there and preserve the shutout, that's where you lose a lot of shutouts. You don't want your starters to get hurt. You pull some guys out, and then your backups go in there, not let them cross midfield, essentially, not let them attempt a field goal or, put one through the uprights. That's really hard. So with the defense playing that well, and obviously Patrick Mahomes looks like a madman on a mission again. You cannot argue that they don't look like the best version of the Kansas City Chiefs we've seen in quite a while.
And of course, to follow on your shutout point, I mean, the type of defense that you play when you have that type of a lead is a lot less aggressive, a lot less shutdowny, right? Yes.
What the Giants play in the fourth quarters. Yeah. Like that type of defense. Exactly. Like, usually people score in the fourth quarter because you let your foot off the gas a little bit and you're relaxing, you're protecting the time and the lead. You're letting them catch the ball, tackle, no big deal. That's why shutouts are so rare in the NFL because you truly just completely mop the other team, and it's usually too competitive for that to happen.
So another team that's kind of on the flip side of this equation that stands out to me, have we seen the Jags now? Like, are they last year's sort of Saints, right? They start really strong and then kind of start to, the number of turnovers they were averaging through the first few weeks of the season was crazy. Their O-line through the first 3 games allowed four sacks total. And now you're seeing that O-line just completely get blown up. I understand that the Rams front is very good, but I did not expect it to look quite like that. It doesn't seem like the pass catching game is on par. You did nail your prediction with Travis Hunter scoring a touchdown, but I would argue that, like it doesn't, that's great, but that doesn't mean that they're going to start like, is it going to, are they going to, what's going on with the Jags? What are you seeing from the Jags?
I think it's, new coaching staff, and it's all new systems on both sides of the ball, and it looks really good when it's good, and then when the details are off, it didn't look good. Look, they didn't show up to London, and they pretty much own London, and they didn't show up to London. Like, and that happens in those games, the travel, all that stuff. We know the Rams did something new with their travel and all that stuff, but the Jags just did not show up at all, and they're trying to chase, down 2, 3 scores, trying to go for it on every fourth down, trying to onside kick, and then it gets out of hand. On the other side, the Rams looked really freaking good, and I would say injuries are not always a bad thing.
Right.
For the Kansas City Chiefs, they got to learn a lot about other players, and now with the Rams, with Puka Nacua out, he is so much of their workload. They got to spread the ball around. Devontae Adams got 3 touchdowns, right?
On
Matthew
like
Stafford
35
threw
yards. It was like 38 yards. It's just hilarious to me.
right. Red zone threat, and now Matthew Stafford threw 5 touchdowns, right?
5
Without
touchdowns
Puka.
against the blitz. That's the most in the next gen stats here. All of them,
Right.
he was facing a blitz on all of them. And I understand blitz doesn't always mean pressure, but that there's a reason that doesn't usually happen, right? Like, because usually the blitz works.
Right. So imagine when Puka comes back, and you have Puka, and now you have Devontae Adams on the other side who's just going crazy in the red zone and one-on-ones. Like, that is what they envisioned, and I think sometimes if you have a good team and can sustain the injuries, when you get the guys back, you just have that much more confidence. Injuries are not always a bad thing in the NFL. They're gonna happen. It's how you handle them when they happen. Can your depth step up? And now I think the Rams, like the Chiefs, are gonna be some scary teams down the stretch. For the Jags, for that reason, I think they're just inconsistent in a new system. I do not think they're last year's Saints. I think they're better than that. I think they'll be playoff contenders down the stretch. I think they'll have a winning record.
I mean, I hope so because it's nice to see someone succeed. Like Trevor Lawrence, I want all the quarterbacks. I want everyone to have their best players be good, right? So that we get really competitive games. That game wasn't fun to watch because it was so lopsided. But speaking of things that aren't lopsided, the NFC West, everyone's tied atop the top spot. 5-2 for the Niners, the Seahawks, and the Rams. You already talked about the Rams being someone that's contenders and potentially getting even better without Puka there now that they learn what the other players are capable of, which is great. We didn't see much from their run game. Kyron Williams was kind of stifled in that one, but didn't really matter because they had the short yardage situation covered with Devontae Adams and a cloud of dust, basically. But what are you seeing from the Seahawks? Like that was an interesting game last night, overcoming, a pick six. Like that, it's always hard to do. Even you saw what happened to another team. We'll talk about it in a second, but being able to kind of handle some of the things that the Texans defense was able to. I think we all kind of agree the Texans defense is the scariest side of their game, that the offense not quite as threatening. So are the Seahawks a contender? Are they legit? Are they someone that's going to potentially be there at the end?
I think this is the most surprising one for me. Like, it just people thought Sam Darnold was a lateral move to Geno Smith, right? Like, oh wow, they lost Geno, but you got Sam Darnold, and the Vikings are like, we don't want to pay Sam. It is what it is, right? So it's like, okay, the Vikings don't want to pay him, but the Seahawks are just taking him, or they wanted him or not. I don't know. And man, he's delivering. And Jackson Smith and Jigba looking like playing like one of the best receivers in football. We know they have a defensive head coach. We know the defense should have played better than they did last year, and they are. I mean, they were missing Julian Love and Witherspoon, two of their best DBs, and they still played really well defensively. So they're just playing good ball. Like, you can't knock it. They're playing good ball, and you always want to be a team that's tough to beat. Don't beat yourself. Be tough to beat. In the playoffs, you never know what's happening. And I think for sure you're going to get in the NFC Championship one of these teams out of this division. Like, absolutely, because the Niners, the Rams, and the Seahawks they're going to be battling each other. So they're going to put some losses on each other's record because the division's so good. But I do think that builds you up in the playoffs to beat some other teams who've had some easier schedules, if that makes sense. You're kind of like the old NBA Western Conference. You had to go to a little tougher tougher regular season, that's what this division is going to go to. So the Niners might pick up a couple more losses, or the Rams or the Seahawks. They might not have the cleanest record. They might not have 14 wins when it's all said and done, but they're going to be tough to beat in the playoffs because they're battle tested.
I will say that the fact that the place schedule makes a huge difference to me in this one, because they have one of the easier schedules from, like, they play the AFC South, the NFC South, as their, like, all of the teams play all of the teams in that. But the fourth place schedule for the Niners gives them at least a little bit of a bump based on the fact that the attrition is like crazy. Like Fred Warner, now we see Bryce Huff's going to miss some time. Like, there are so many pieces that are missing, and they're winning these games. I mean, it did not look like I know if you didn't know the numbers on the jerseys, you would not have known that they were not playing guys. They were on, like, no Nick Bosa, no Nick. They would not against the Falcons. You would have not known that. I mean, I know I love the Mac Jones incentive because he gets $100,000 for each win going forward. So, like, I love a good incentive aligning with winning. That's fun. I think everyone should have that personally, but whatever. But they don't even have their starting quarterback in. Sure, they get George Kittle back, but like that's like one person back who's a huge and impactful person, but still 62% of their offense went through Christian McCaffrey, even with George Kittle back. But Mac Jones, like, have we reached a tipping point here? Are they going to be able to overcome all of these injuries? My math on this is so confusing because some things say yes, some things say no. They truly are. They like defying the math. That is what they're doing. There's no like it's like plus Kyle Shanahan factor unknown.
Well, you nailed it right there, Cynthia, like right at the end. People always think football is 11 on 11.
No.
And it's not. It's not. It's +1, that coach. It's 12 on 12. It's your coach calling the plays versus their coach. And Kyle Shanahan is better than like 31 of them. Maybe Andy Reid. I'll put him up there. I'm just going to put him up there with Andy Reid, really, honestly. I think that's right where I like him. Sean Payton, but I like he's up there with the top I've been around, top I've played against. And that gives you an advantage. They wouldn't be able to do what they do on offense with no Ayuk, and Debo's gone, and O-line's banged up. And, oh, by the way, Purdy is out. Your starting quarterback, and George has been out, Kittle, most of the season. And it's because of Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Shanahan's play calling and coaching. You got Kendrick Bourne, looking
like a friggin' Devontae Smith, like it's crazy.
Exactly, right? With the system. So that's it. And defensively, they got Robert Saleh back. And I didn't play for Robert Saleh when I played for the Niners. He was at the Jets. But the guys were hype about him. Like, it was a big deal that he wasn't there. And then when he came back, talking to those guys, they were happy he was back. So Robert Saleh was a +1 in that Atlanta game. With the players he had out there, with the lack of rush, and Fred Warner, I've already talked about how he's a top 2 defensive player I've ever played with. Darrelle Revis, Fred Warner, top 2. Everyone else, I play with a lot of other probably potential Hall of Famers and all pros. Those are the top 2. Then I'll start figuring out the rest of the list. Darrelle Revis, Fred Warner. That's how good he is, and I noticed that immediately. That's how important he is to a defense, what Darrelle Revis was to the Jets. So for Robert Saleh to kind of take away Bijan Robinson and just dismantle the Falcons, who is a really good offense, it's the +1. It's the coaching that they have in the 49ers, and that's something we don't think about a lot, but they have that on both sides of the ball, and that's going to give them a chance in every game with that alone.
When I was rewatching this game, the one thing that really stood out was the fact that Drake London just was not, it was as if he wasn't there. I mean, he has not shown up big in many games this year. Okay, whatever. But it was as if, I mean, he's a big body receiver. He could be a problem, especially for missing a bunch of pieces. Okay, Kyle Pitts got a couple of extra receptions based on no Fred Warner, the space Fred would have occupied, but like not really. He didn't get much yak. There wasn't a lot after the catch that was really dynamic about him in that matchup. So it wasn't even just Bijan. It was all of the other kind of star pieces that they were relying on Darnell Mooney and, like trying to get it, which is, you got to succeed. You got to give up something, right? So they're giving up Darnell Mooney in deeper situations. Okay. Like, I would take that over the strong hands of a Bijan Robinson running the ball. So maybe that says more about Atlanta is one where I don't know what I'm looking at with Atlanta week to week. They're completely different teams, kind of based on I don't know. They're the one that doesn't defy the math because they're 3-3, and that kind of feels like exactly where they should be. Like 3-3, but again, against a really banged up Niners team, maybe I was expecting it to look more like better. I was expecting it to look a lot better because they were so banged up.
That was a big opportunity for them, and I know they played in prime time, but to me, that was a big opportunity of going across the country, playing in prime time. This is your chance to show, try to keep up with the Bucs. This is your chance to show what you guys are. You have Bijan Robinson. They're talking like he's the best back in football, and Michael Penix, and you got your receivers and you got your guys, and the Niners are banged up. Go knock off perennial playoff teams. It's hard to be a perennial playoff team in the NFL because of injuries, but the Niners are used to playing with injuries. They're used to that. And I'll tell you what, if you
Maybe
show
not
up,
this many.
shoot, did you see last year? I mean,
Fair.
last year was a
They
lot of
ended up
injuries.
4th in the division last year. So, like
Exactly, but they played with it. They
right.
played with it and got experience. They didn't win last year with it. So when they're like, "Hey, Purdy's hurt," they're like, "Oh, that's happened before." Last year, Christian was hurt. That's the difference.
Right.
He is the bell cow on offense. If he's in there, if Christian McCaffrey's not in there, they don't have this record.
Right.
And we could talk about this later, but that shows you the value of running backs. If Christian McCaffrey's not in there, they do not have this record. And I got to give a quick shout out to my guy real quick. The San Francisco Hyena, the Amador Lenore. If you are a number one receiver and you're showing up to San Fran, you better be emotionally ready. They call him the Hyena for a reason. He introduced himself as the Hyena. If you didn't notice that, he is coming to take your lunch. That's how that kid is wired. I love it. And he's developed and got big money and he's earning it. But he's taking people out the game. If they're not ready to play, the San Francisco Hyena is going to come get you. I
I was
promise you.
I didn't know that you knew about that. Like I looked at that, I was like, did he just say hyena? Like I was like, wait a minute.
Played with him. That's the Hyena. Yeah, that's what we call him.
Great. What
Just scrappy. Just a
did
true
he come
hyena.
up with
Just
that for
scrappy.
himself or was this someone to come up with it for him? Did he self name himself that or this is a very interesting
I don't know. I don't know the origin, but it's
Got,
like the Joker. You don't really know the origin of him,
got it.
but he was probably born the hyena. That is his personality. He
Got it.
does not care. He's pretty fearless out there,
Mhm.
and he's strapping these guys up. Truly, if they're not ready to play, if you don't bring your game against the hyena, you're gonna find out. And I think he probably put on another masterclass performance.
I love it. Okay, so really quick, I think this is kind of like a one-word answer. So Colts, even without, I mean, Charvarius Ward, they have concussion, one of the stranger things that I've seen. But to beat the Chargers without your starting corners with Justin Herbert on the other side, I think if you're looking at the, like I said, easiest way to win, there's two kind of formulas for winning. One, really good run game and a very strong defense. Okay, we get it, especially a pass defense. Like, okay, the other way is to protect your quarterback and have a good enough defense to support your quarterback. Those are the two kind of formulas for success. I think the Colts, to me, I would label them feisty contender. So I think they win the division. I think they end up going to the playoffs. Feisty contender, like in a one-game sample playoff against the AFC, like it could go either way, but they're going to be feisty and it's going to be interesting to watch. That's kind of how I feel about them. What do you see?
If I say they're not a contender, I'm just hating. I'm just waiting for them to fail. Everything they've shown throughout the first half of the season to this point has been legit. From run numbers, Daniel Jones. I mean, they're just tearing people apart. It's not even close. They're just a better team every single week. And to say they're going to fall off, you're just hating at the moment. There's nothing I've seen to back that. So based on what my man DJ's doing and Jonathan Taylor and how their defense is playing, they're contenders.
But yeah, I mean, I think though, I mean, to me, I feel a little different about them than I do about like the Chiefs, right? Just because I feel like, like this, when you have a quarterback that has been there it's like how people felt about like, that's a dynasty, right? It's a Brady-esque dynasty right there. So, like it just feels a little different from them than the other one. So I don't know. I'm going to go with feisty contender, feisty playoff contender. I don't know. I like my little branding. Okay. One last one before I ask you who's not their schedule the most is the Steelers, Bengals, Brown. Like what is going on in Steelers in the AFC North? Like what are we looking at here? I'm seeing the Steelers at 4-2, but I saw a weird loss to the Bengals on Thursday. I know those division games are always like anyone's game, especially on Thursday night. I feel like AFC North Thursday night matchups are always like you could flip a coin and have a better record at picking those wins. But I mean, what are you seeing? Are the Steelers legit? Can somehow The Ravens come back. Like, what are you seeing from this?
I feel like the Steelers need to play. I mentioned this last week. They got to be the Broncos. They got to be the Peyton Manning version of the Broncos. I think Aaron Rodgers is playing as well as he can at this point of his career. I think he's playing really well. I told you he's a maestro at the line of scrimmage. He's going to get him in the right plays. He's putting up points. So I have no problem. They're doing the most their offense can do. And then defensively, they need to be dominant. They pay the players on all three levels. From the D-line, they're paid. Linebackers, you got Patrick Queen, and obviously they acquired Jalen Ramsey, brought in Slay. I mean, they paid all three levels to have really dominant defense, and they got to be a top 3 defense in football. And I don't know what they're ranked, but they got absolutely picked apart last week by Joe Flacco and the Bengals. So that's no shade on that. That's a heck of a passing attack. But I'll say if they're not playing consistently dominant defense, they're not contenders at all, because I don't think Aaron Rodgers at this point can just will it to happen. He needs to play very complimentary, a la what Peyton Manning did with that Denver defense. That Denver defense was special, though, and I think the Steelers need to be special defensively.
Yeah, 10 years ago, that Denver defense was very special. Is there one team that I missed here? Anyone that stands out to you as being not who their record says they are, either bad or good? Is there anyone who you're like, this team could be there when it's at the podium when all is said and done?
You know, I would say the Bucs, man. The Bucs have looked so everything has been a comeback for Baker, and obviously Detroit kinda knocked some wind out themselves, and they're having injuries like everyone else is, right? And Mike Evans now came back, and then the clavicle, Emeka Buga had the hammy, he's back. Godwin's gotta get back. I think they need some sense of having their weapons come back at the same time. You know, when are they gonna come back? A la what the Chiefs look like. And then defensively, they need to play better. They have to play consistently better. Not every game needs to be this close in order to take those steps. 'Cause I see the Lions are starting to take steps. I see the Rams are starting to take steps. I see the Niners have that great coaching like I've talked about, and I think Todd Bowles is a heck of a coach. I'm not gonna knock that. But I would think he needed his defense to play better while they deal with all these offensive injuries. So I think the Bucs, I think they were all of our, like, NFC favorites heading into that game, and the Lions really took the win out those sails and they were super banged up. So I think the Bucs is a team where they're really teetering to me, and I really got to see them the next few weeks to see what these Bucs are about.
Yeah, the good news for them is their division, and their division doesn't seem to want to be won by anyone historically, and it feels like this could come down to it again. So I feel very like I'm feel good that they'll be there in the come late January, but I don't know how, like you said, I don't know how far the I I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking at because I don't even know. I don't know what their offense is with everyone. We won't see it with everyone. So Chris Godwin and Emeka Egbuka, that will be the thing. But you got to get Bucky Irving back as well. So I don't know. Sometimes you have to outlast your injuries. The Lions could not outlast their injuries at the end of last year. So we've seen it before. Anyways, the team that I want to talk about is the Eagles, because Eagles fans are never happy. I have a lot of friends who are Eagles fans, and they could beat the brakes off of the Vikings, and somehow Eagles fans not happy, don't know what's going on. Jalen Hurts had his best deep passing game of his career, 215 deep passing yards. That is literally the most that he's had. He had 3 touchdowns, 2 deep passes, but we did not see Saquon Barkley get going. What are we looking at with this Eagles team whose defense is not quite what we're used to from the Eagles? Like Quinyon Mitchell, great, but the front has not been exacting their will in terms of pressure on people. What are we seeing from this Eagles, like the whole thing? What are we seeing?
Well, the whole thing, I would say I feel as if the fronts aren't as good as last year right now. The defensive front and the offensive line
Yep.
are not playing as well as they did last year, and they've been probably 2 of the most dominant fronts for the last decade, and that's why they've been consistently so good. In terms of this game, when you play Brian Flores, that's like taking like a trigonometry test. It's an outlier, and I promise you, I've sat in Brian Flores' meeting. He came from New England Patriots. I grew up in this style of defense. He is going to take away your number one thing you do. And a lot of times that's frustrate the quarterback. What he did says, we're going to take away Saquon Barkley. We're absolutely going to take away Saquon Barkley. We're going to put so many buys at the line of scrimmage. We're going to penetrate. We're not going to let Saquon beat us. And if someone else beats us, if Jalen Hurts beats us, so be it. He brought so many blitz zeros, which you know he's going to do. Run blitzes, though. and he's going to live with Jalen Hurts beating him. And Jalen Hurts beat him. Give him credit. Give Jalen Hurts credit. That is what Brian Flores took away, and Jalen Hurts did that. And the problem when you run those blitz zeros is you got to be able to cover those wide receivers. And that's what always the Eagles' problem is. They have so many weapons. If we want to run the ball, how do we get AJ involved? Well, they got AJ involved because they had to, because they schematically were going to take Saquon away. So that doesn't mean they can't run the ball or they need to run better. The Eagles do. But schematically, I know Brian Flores took them away, and he was going to live with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith beating him, and Jalen Hurts throwing the ball. And that's what the Eagles did. They countered and said, all right, if you're going to take away our right hand, we got to beat you left-handed. It's not what we do the best. And Jalen Hurts knocked him out with his left hand. And I think Brian Flores woke up off the canvas and was like, hey, that was our game plan. Move to see another day. Kudos to Jalen Hurts. Kudos to the Eagles for executing the game plan.
I mean, going into this game, the Vikings defense against the run was bottom third in almost every metric that you would want to have. And they spent a lot. They got a little spendy in free agency on stopping the run as well, but it hadn't netted out yet. So they had to devote extra resources in order to account for Saquon, which is what they did. And then you saw, I mean, I looked at some, like if you look at those deep passes to AJ Brown, I mean, look, AJ Brown, Isaiah Rodgers, like the physical mismatch is just, it is what it is. You can't make someone taller or bigger or whatever. So, you had to live with that. And you had to also live with, you hadn't seen Jalen Hurts complete some of these passes. So it was a low probability factor to begin with. That's deep passes always are. That's why 215 yards off of like 5 receptions that's why that number is so wild, because it just doesn't, they're very low probability passes. So, I mean, I don't know. I think what I'm seeing from the Eagles for me in this one was finally they were able to get when the right hand didn't work, the left hand to work. I hadn't seen that very often this season. They were relying on some crazy special teams tricks to win, or some outlier of a thing to happen. This is a more consistent path when one thing is taken away to rely on another, right? So that was what I saw, a little bit more diversity working for them. But I thought their defense was still not, Quinyon Mitchell aside, he was great. He did a good job of locking down everything he needed to do. But other than that, I still didn't see the type of push I would have expected given the way Carson Wentz has been playing.
Yeah, look, Carson Wentz threw 2 interceptions, obviously costly, kind of wild Carson Wentz-y plays. And you got to think if the Vikings get better quarterback play or get someone who doesn't, it wasn't like there were interceptions where they forced them to do that. They were self-inflicting, like, Carson, you can't play like that, right? And it's a one-score game still with Carson Wentz kind of getting wild a little bit with the rock. So you don't feel like, oh man, the Eagles dominated or anything like that by any means. But the Eagles showed balance offensively. And balance is not, we have equal run yards, we have equal pass yards. People think balance is like, we want to
People think balance is the Colts. Like you do
40
both. Right. That's not what it is.
Balance means you're spreading the ball around, right? And balance means when something's not working, we can counter. In football, it's all about counter punching. And these New England style coordinators are going to take away what you do best. And they're going to say, hey, if they beat us with the deep ball, Logan, they beat us with the deep ball. Statistically, it's the worst ball they throw, right? I know you don't want to get beat deep. So that's where the corners fail. You can't get beat deep. Get beat on something short. Don't let AJ beat you deep. But AJ was teammates with Isaiah Rodgers. He knows his weaknesses. He knows this guy might not be able to check him like that. So it is what it is. That's why AJ Brown makes a lot of money. That's why the Eagles should have balance. And for the first time, they showed it like, hey, when our run game's not working, our pass game's working. When our pass game's not working, our run game's working, or they're both working. And I think they were able to kind of show, hey, Jalen Hurts can't throw. All right, I'm going to show you I can throw. And he's done that. And that's what he's done in the Super Bowls as well. So it was kind of similar to what he did against the Chiefs. He played his best ball against the most aggressive defense.
Do you think it was the sheer will of the Eagles fans to be more mad at Carson Wentz or be more mad at Kevin Patullo? I don't know. I just feel like the Carson Wentz hatred, for whatever reason, like I said, I love my Eagles fans, but they're insane and they say insane things. And so they hate Kevin Patullo. They hate Carson Wentz for some reason. Whatever. I just think it's the revenge on Carson Wentz was bigger than the whatever. That's my like unconfirmed theory, conspiracy theory on that one. Their sheer will of the Eagles fans drove them to a win in this one.
Yeah, I don't know why they hate Carson Wentz so bad. I mean,
Don't ask me.
you,
I don't.
you,
It makes no
you know,
sense. You won a Super Bowl. Like what? What are you talking about? He was playing
he
like an
did what he got to do. He got hurt, allowed Nick Foles to go in there and finish it. Don't know if Carson would have been able to do that, but hey, he got out the way. Nick Foles got it done. Nick Foles got a statue. Then you hate Carson Wentz. And then, he held it down somewhat for Jalen Hurts to come in there and take that job. So he did his job, man. So
I know.
give now Carson Wentz want to hit. I know we're gonna talk about revenge games.
Yep.
Carson Wentz, he wanted that revenge game though. Low key, he probably wanted that revenge
He
game.
for
And just
sure did. He for sure did. And I think maybe that, like, you watch it and you're like, I think maybe some of those interceptions were him being like, I want this. Like, I have the
yeah.
best receiver in the game. I want this. But I mean, it doesn't really work like that. Anyways, speaking of like something wild that we saw. So my stat of the week. Okay. Until last week, NFL teams had won 1,608 consecutive games when leading by 18 or more points with less than 6 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. Until the Broncos and Giants in week 7. What did we see there? Like, was that the ghost? Again, unconfirmed conspiracy theory. Here we go. The ghost of Demaryius Thomas was like, no, not on the day when I'm posthumously being inducted to the Ring of Honor. Will you allow this to happen?
When you see statistical impossible comebacks like that, so many things have to go wrong. And Jackson Dart throwing an interception on third down when you shouldn't even throw the ball there. You should run the
Why
ball
did you call throw there?
to make them use their last time out. I mean, that's the play to make. But look, rookie quarterback, and he gave you enough. And then he came back and got you the lead again. So I can't even throw it on that. Rookie quarterback, there's gonna be some mistakes. Why you even call it a pass play? But this is all my BTA is about to go on this defensive coordinator and this defense, man. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. You're just taking nothing away. You're dropping 8. You're dropping
Why
8
would you do
when
that? But like, what would be a reason to do that? Like, why would you call that dropping 8? What might be? I'm just okay, like, was it did someone mess up? Like, is that maybe not what was called, or just like he just called it wrong, or like what? Or is there a logical reason to call that?
it's like, look, we cannot give up a 25. He probably said this in the mic to Okereke or whatever. Yo, Bobby, we can't give up a 25-yard gain. I got to drop 8. I got to just drop everybody in zone and just pack the middle of the field, get deep, and make them check it down. Okay? There's no way. And then you drop 8, and then he just hits a 25-yard gain, exactly what you don't want to give up. And you cannot do that if you shouldn't honestly, you shouldn't call that there. But secondly, you definitely shouldn't call that there when you pay so much money to the pass rushers. You literally pay the 4 guys up front to be your best players. Your best players aren't in the secondary. Let the pass rush go be the pass rush. So then they don't rush the passers. They drop the pass rush. They only drop 8. They drop 8. He hits the in cut. They get on the ball. And then he calls man to man. All right, now we got to tighten it up. Calls man to man. They run the pick rub route. The Cortland Sutton in the slot. Beautiful back shoulder ball, which Bo Nix throws best. And it's just Sean Payton is such levels above Bowen, the BC. It's literally plus one. It's plus one. It's literally playing 12 on 11. It was just plus one. And there you go. That's all she wrote. They have no confidence to close out games. One, that team hasn't closed out a lot of games. They haven't won a lot, so they haven't been there a lot. So they don't have that experience of closing it out. But two, that coordinator hasn't called a lot of closeout games like Sean Payton has closed out a lot of games. And Sean Payton knew his tendencies through and through. He had the exact route to beat drop coverage, and he had the exact route to beat man-to-man. If he called those plays in a different order, neither of those plays worked. He knew exactly what the Giants were going to be in. It's like walking the dog, man. He walked the dog right to the end. So I see why Giants fans are frustrated. I had some DMs like, Logan, what are we doing? And I'm like, brother, I don't know. I honestly don't know, but that was not it.
I mean, it was a little deflating just in general because you have this like spark for the Giants with Jackson Dart, and it finally feels like they've got the swagger, they've got the play call, like they're doing it without Malik Neighbors. They're doing that's against this Broncos defense, which Sean Payton himself has said it's one of the best defenses that he can remember. Some of the players on the defense ahead of the season, I did preseason with them. They were like, we want to be that Super Bowl 50. Now this is Super Bowl 60, but like that we want to be that. That's our ask. We will accept nothing less than that. We want to be as good as them. Now I know everybody says that every year, but they actually have a really good defense. So you're what and Jackson Dart's doing it against the defensive player of that was really impressive, right? And their O-line is not one that I think is great. And he was doing a great job of navigating around that. So it just feels like really took the wind out of this. Like, it feels like that was a big, psychological or, want to call it momentum, but psychological shift for sure.
It did. Look, it seems like, all right, Giants fans, like, you got a bright future with this quarterback. You found your quarterback, but they're like, no, we could be in it now based on how the division's going. They could be in it now. That's how they feel. But at least, they got the quarterback going forward. Teams are about identity. 100%. You have the offense, you have the defense. Me and Zach explain how it's almost two different teams on one team. But a team has an identity. Who's going to win the game? Who's going to close out the game? We knew in New England, we were going to play really good defense. We were going to be one of the highest ranked defense. We're going to be really good in a situation, but Brady's going to win us games. When we're not playing well, Brady's going to win us the game. When it's a tight game, Brady's going to win us the game. If we need a comeback, Brady's going to give us every score. We just got to make a stop to compliment Brady. Get the ball to Jordan. Okay? The Giants, the way you built this team is you drafted Abdul Carter, you paid Brian Burns, you paid Dexter Lawrence, right? You drafted Kayvon Thibodeau, top 5. You got Okereke, one of the best middle linebackers in football. Yes, I know the secondary isn't the greatest, but you got to close games out on defense. You have a rookie quarterback. You have a 4th-round rookie running back. You have your number 1 wide receiver out. You have tight ends that are playing well. We barely know their name, right? So it's like you got to close games out on defense. And when your rookie offense, essentially, your young offense, is scoring 31 points against the Denver Broncos, you can't let up 33. You just can't. You're not going to win games like that. They don't have the identity. I know Dayball's an offensive play caller and the offensive coach. When you have your head coach being your play caller, you need to have a strong D coordinator.
Yep.
It's almost like two different teams because where's Dayball's focus all week? It's on the offense.
Jackson Dart.
It's on the offense. Yes, it's on the offense. Your defensive play caller needs to be your defensive head coach. He needs to be head coach-like, strong. Oh, it's our personality. I don't see that over there. So they got a defense with a lot of talent and a lot of assets, not closing out games. Right? They don't have Vic Fangio on defense. They don't have Steve Spagnuolo on defense, right? They don't have these strong former head coach coordinators that are head coach-like on that side. So the defense out there playing as well as the offense is playing. And not.
Giants would love to have Spags, just so we're clear.
For sure. Are you kidding me? So to me,
They get
it's
a
like,
Super Bowl ring with Spags. Just, that happened. That already happened. We've seen that one.
right. A guy that can call out games. So not Sean McVay.
Yeah, Sean Payton.
Sean Payton out there just playing chess. The Giants are playing checkers. There's a +1 down the stretch. That's our theme this episode. But you got coaching malpractice. So write a letter to your nearest to WFAN or write a letter to the Giants, whatever the address is. Yeah, defensive coaching malpractice. I'll call it that.
Okay, so we get it this week. We get another piece of Aaron Rodgers' revenge. I would argue this is the real revenge against the Packers. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers, well, I don't know. He seems feisty against the Jets too. We already saw that one. But now we see, in that one, Aaron Rodgers +1 for him there. Does he get the +1 against the Packers? I know that you've played in some revenge games. Tell me about some of the mentality. Our story time today is about revenge and revenge games.
It's real and it matters. It absolutely, I'm not saying you do anything extra, but you know that, look, I believe every player, for the most part, majority of players, I'll say 90% of players, when they get drafted somewhere and they're playing well, they intend to stay. Like most players don't want to be like, I want to like the only city I've ever lived in, my only apartment I ever had or house. Like I want to move and go somewhere else. Like it's not the NBA. Like I don't see too much. I want to get up out of here from players most of the time. So regardless how you end up going to another team, there is a feeling of like, they thought I wasn't good enough, or they didn't want to pay me whatever, or they thought this guy was better, or they thought they could replace me with a draft pick. And that's just business, right? You get his business, but you personally give your all to the business. Then the business then says, we have a better asset. Sorry about your feelings. So, of course, in my revenge game against the Patriots, I had Mike Vrabel as my coach. We both went back to New England. Now, Mike Vrabel's not coming like New England ever wanted to hire me as a coach or anything like that. But there was a sense of he wanted to beat New England. I wanted to beat New England. Obviously, it's the next game on our schedule, but it was like, nah, like everyone showed love pregame. Belichick showed love pregame. We miss you, Logan. We love you. You're playing really well. It was all cool, blah, blah, blah. But it was like, okay, I'm going to show you, you know, what you're missing or why you missed me or whatever.
Yeah.
And obviously I had a pretty, cool play to end the game and win the game. That all felt good
Wait,
and
can you just
everything like
wait?
that.
A pretty cool play to end it. Expand.
I had a pick six against Tom Brady to seal the game. Essentially, you're up one. Brady has the ball. We've seen
Pretty
this
cool
song and
play.
dance. Right. We've seen this song. We've seen the song and dance and whatever. I was in the right place, right time, got a pick. Vrabel wanted me to slide technically, but I had a pick six that thing. And we win the game. We knocked Brady out. We knocked him out the playoffs. And Brady's last game, coincidentally, as a Patriot. His last pass, coincidentally, as a Patriot. But of course, it meant more for me. So I feel as if Vrabel going back to Tennessee, you fired me as a coach. You moved on for whatever reason. He definitely felt that like,
Like
okay,
you
you
messy. We
sure you
don't
got
want
the
to see
right
you.
coach?
Yeah.
You don't even have a coach. So obviously they didn't make the right decision. Right. And there is some of that and I know Vrabel's a player. I know him personally. I know there was some of like, look, he ain't gonna coach any harder, but it means a little something. And I'm happy that the fans cheered for Vrabel. Titans fans probably was packed by the Patriots as well, but they kind of gave Vrabel a standing ovation, which he deserved. And of course, Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to say it means anything more, blah, blah, blah. But it feels good because I believe most players' intentions are to stay in the city that they're in. Obviously, if everything works out. Most of the time, these really smart analytic people get involved, Cynthia, and you start consulting. And next thing we know, players aren't where they used to be or something. I don't know. I
Wait a
don't know
minute, wait a
how.
minute. Hold on. First and foremost, I would argue that I did a whole thesis on that O lineman was my main thing, but then the number of homegrown players that you play tends to that you pay, excuse me. So homegrown, you drafted them, you develop them, and then you pay them, then their production is higher and they outperform their draft pick. Look at the Ravens. There's so many examples. So I don't argue for that. I argue for not um chasing good money after bad, throwing good money after bad, meaning if you get it wrong, you need to cut your ties sooner. I think a la the Bills with Kyer Elam. They drafted him in the first round. It didn't work out for them. They didn't pay him. They moved on from him. That didn't work. I would argue you just can't sunk cost. Oh, like you can't use your ego to say, I drafted him in the first round, so I have to keep. No, 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 no. You have to pay your players, and hopefully you're paying a fifth rounder, right? Hopefully you're paying a
Right.
sixth rounder. Not hopefully you're overpaying a first rounder to underperform. So I think you have to I would advocate for developing all of your own players and paying all of them if you could, get it right with every draft pick, but you're not going to get it right every draft pick. So don't be weird about your first and second round picks. Be weird about now they're on your team, everyone, equal pay for the play that you get. That's the way that you have the most success.
Yeah, and I think that definitely makes sense, and I have 2 points for that. The one being the reason why I feel like GMs, they draft a guy they miss. We know it's a miss, right? The first year is guaranteed, first round's guaranteed. All right, I'm paying a guy $25 million for 1 year. Like, okay, let's hold on to him. The more you fire your own draft picks, the more you fire yourself. So they will do everything they can to give this guy multiple opportunities. If you're the seventh round pick, you don't get those opportunities.
Nope.
You're the fifth round pick, you don't get if you're undrafted, you don't get those. But if you're the first, second round pick, and it's like, hey, we drafted you, you're really high in the draft, it's not a good fit. If I fire you in a year or two, I look dumb as drafting you. So a lot of players get that pass because GMs don't want to do that. And that's not what the numbers say.
Right. I
But
understand that, but that's why I think it
so
was so special that the Bills paid Christian Benford, who was a late round pick, and got rid of Kyer
more
Elam. Same draft, he was their first round pick. He didn't they pay, that was great, but they can only do that if they have the right quarterback. Just say it only works if you have certain key positions, namely quarterback. So if you get quarterback wrong, you're kind of screwed no matter what. If you get quarterback right, then you have the opportunity to make some things right. But ultimately, you're never paying the mistakes, and the payment don't usually line up because the bad teams typically fire their coach. So now you're trying to figure out someone else's mess. It's rare that a player will start coaching a good team, right? So, but with the Aaron Rodgers stuff specifically, I think there is a Matt LaFleur. I want to show you that Jordan Love is not because you draft a guy, you bring in Jordan Love when Aaron Rodgers is about to win MVP, he crushes it, and then you kind of treat him like we were for so many seasons we talk about if Aaron Rodgers is going to retire. So I think there's a little bit of like a Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur will poke there with the Jordan Love situation specifically, and that's pretty unique to the Packers. Though Aaron Rodgers was on the other side of that one time with Brett Favre, so it's all various. The symmetry you can't help but see the symmetry there.
Like Thanos said, life's about balance. It all comes around.
It all comes
And
around. So do you think Aaron wins, or do you think the Packers win? What do you think happens?
where's this game at? In Green Bay or in Pittsburgh?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me find out. I will find out.
I'll tell you what, I want to see Aaron Rodgers pull that discount double check out, though. I want to see that Selly. If he pulls that out, I know it's working.
It's in Pittsburgh.
Okay. I want to see him pull that. I want to see him pull that out. Look, I think Green Bay is the better team of the two, but I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play well. They're going to play well. So it's about what this Pittsburgh defense can do, because I got a lot of faith in this Green Bay defense. Micah Parsons, Xavier McKinney, Jeff Hafley, got a lot of love for him. So I like where Green Bay's coming at, especially off this last week. But Aaron Rodgers is going to do his thing now. I think he can will that to happen. So it's going to be a really good game. It's going to come down to probably something that may be out of Aaron Rodgers' control, like the last game.
Right.
But if you tell me that he has good feelings for Gutekunst, no shot. I know he's not going to say it. I know he's came full circle in life and he's at peace. No shot he has good feelings about Gutekunst. LaFleur's like, whatever, but I don't think he thinks LaFleur let him go. I think it's more, or he wanted out, whatever, how it all went down, the contract, the drafting Jordan Love. This is going to be Aaron Rodgers and a Gutekunst thing. So I feel like he pulls out that discount double check as personal.
I one time said on TV when it was all going down, I said, there are more Brian Gutekunst in this world than Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron has more leverage. He ended up staying. That was his last season in Green Bay. A very good season for him, in fact. But and then Gutekunst gave me this side eye the next time I saw it. I was like, at least I said your name right. At least I pronounced it right. I don't know. But it's true. There's a lot more Cynthia Frelunds than Aaron Rodgers too. What point is there's just a lot more people that can manage a team than can play quarterback in the NFL at the highest levels. It is true. It's statistically true.
Who said it? There's 1,000 yous, there's only one of me. I forget what rapper said that. Like Jay-Z or Kanye.
All right, so should we bring Ben in? And you got a new haircut, I think so.
I did. I did. I had to get it straightened up here. But I do have to ask, though, because, okay, there's you can say there's more Brian Gutekunst, but how many Brian Gutekunst do you actually know? Like, if you Google him or go on Truth Finder, how many are you actually finding compared to people named Aaron Rodgers? Or Cynthia Frelund? How many Cynthia Frelunds do you know with F-R-E?
I don't know a lot of those, but I do know that there are at least, 30 other GMs, if you want to, 30, 31, if you want to count Jerry Gills, whatever. But there are 31, and there are not 31 other people who are at the caliber level of Aaron Rodgers as quarterback. I will stand by that. Just saying.
There's only one Cynthia Frelund, Frelund, always throwing people off in the graphics department. Always having fun with that. Cynthia and I have worked together for a long time, going back to my NFL Network days. And I can easily say there have been many times in the control room people went, wait, F-R-E-L.
Damn Norwegian last names. Damn Norwegian last names.
Norwegian.
All Midwesterners have ties
exactly.
to Scandinavia, so it's a Norwegian last name. So that's how you know.
There you go. There's a lot of Ben Allens. You can Google that, and I'm definitely not the first one that comes up. But I like to throw you guys curveballs every once in a while, because I will be thinking about things. I've been thinking about things for a while with Bijan Robinson, Bijan, whatever you want to call him now at this point. Yeah, whatever the mustard deal is at this point. But I have to ask you about something else, because I don't even know if you guys just saw, but our friend of the 33rd team, Trey Wingo, is reporting that the Dallas Cowboys have inquired about trading for Maxx Crosby from the Las Vegas Raiders, which not sure if you guys remember, but the Dallas Cowboys traded away a certain pass rusher not too long ago for a pick package as well as Kenny Clark. My question of what I've been thinking about for a while and now is even more present in this is what the actual F are the Dallas Cowboys doing?
I think that would be genius, Cynthia. They acquired the picks, and then if you flip them and get a guy like Maxx Crosby, he's going to have production. Just his personality is kind of franchise shifting, defense shifting identity. And obviously Micah Parsons was your identity. And I think they realized that Dak and that offense is as good as any offense in football, people. Like, you're talking about injuries helping an offense out, what they've got over there now with CD Lamb back, what they learned about themselves. So they got to play good defense because they feel like this could be their year to be up there with the Eagles. So I think this would be a genius move if they're able to flip those picks for Maxx Crosby. I'll be a fan of that.
I think that the question you asked was like, what are they doing? So I think maybe they didn't expect to be quite the contenders that they are now. So I don't necessarily think ahead of the season they thought they would be in this position where they could really strike while the iron's hot. That offense is cooking. You had seen Dak came off an injury last year. Now he's playing like MVP. Like, he really is having a great season. So now they're trying to say, what is the thing that we are missing? Well, we're buyers at the trade deadline because we don't have this thing. And I don't actually know if Micah was their identity as much at, off of the field compared to like Max buys completely in all the time. Max is a team guy, first in, last out, the whole thing. Micah is pure talent, raw, absolute, like just complete freak of nature talent. But I don't know if he's the same type of vocal leader. Like, I'm just giving Max credit. I'm not shading Micah. I'm giving Max credit for being just heads and shoulders in terms of, talk about Eastern Michigan, pride of Eastern Michigan right there. Ypsilanti, you're going to be there this week, Logan. But, you talk about the type of personality and the way he gives back to the community, like the investment that Max has made in Las Vegas, in his team, in his teammates. I was there for the East-West Shrine Bowl a couple of years ago, and it was January River. He's in the gym, full gym session. All of these freaking people are there watching these East-West Shrine Bowl kids. He's just like full workout, doesn't know any of us, or like just ridiculous. Like, he's just that dude. And not to say Micah isn't a great dude. That's not it. It's just Max is like just right up here. So I would be a fan of it because I feel like the Cowboys, we love them or hate them, they treat their Cowboys, the ones that they identify as Cowboys, they are Cowboys for life. Look at Michael Irvin. Look at these people who, like, they are, Troy, all that. Like, that is their way. So if that marriage does work out, if that did happen, the Cowboys would be getting a freaking real one. That's a real, like, the whole Dallas community would be better for having Maxx Crosby there. So I think it's a smart trade. Now, do I think that the Raiders are sellers right now? I don't know. I don't know if they'd be willing to part ways with him. So I don't know if it will happen. But, I wherever Maxx Crosby goes, he's a guy you could build a franchise around because of the elite talent, but also the elite human behind it.
I guess where I'm going with it though is that, like, the idea that were the Cowboys really confident that they were actually going to have a solid defense without Micah Parsons? Because you just look at I'm just like a straight easy numbers guy. I'm not diving in necessarily like Cynthia is. Most yards allowed, second most offensive touchdowns allowed. Were they really trying to save face that they actually thought that the defense was going to be good, and now they're like, oh crap?
I think the negotiation went poorly. And they were like, we don't want to play with this. We have more leverage in this situation. We'll figure it out. I think that was maybe ego, maybe whatever, but I just think the negotiation went so poor. I don't think it ever had anything to do with his talent. Not one bit. Like, not one bit. But if they could get Maxx Crosby and keep at least some of those picks that they had for acquired in the trade, then they actually would net pretty well, like net out pretty well. But I think it was just that the negotiation went so poorly they couldn't save face and figure it out.
All right, guys, we are going to go ahead and talk about some Thursday Night Football. Logan, you and we're going to dive into a fun game that we've got coming up here on Thursday Night Football. First, got to tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel, fanduel.com/33rd. Get over there, place your first $5 bet. If it hits, you get $300 in bonus bets. It's fantastic. And honestly, this might be a good game to be able to throw a couple bucks in, because you're going to have the Los Angeles Chargers hosting the Minnesota Vikings. Who's going to be a quarterback? We don't necessarily know. Might be a Carson Wentz show. Might be J.J. McCarthy finally making a return for a second time, I guess, technically. Logan, these two teams seemingly both really need a win. The Vikings having lost 2 of their last 3, and the Chargers having lost 3 of their last 4. How do you see these two teams approaching this game where they both desperately really need that win?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a battle of just identities clashing. I think that Greg Roman and the Chargers need to run the ball. That's what they got to do offensively to get things back on track. Yeah, obviously, they have good pass catchers and they love their quarterback, but it starts with Greg Roman came from the Ravens and they ran the heck out of the ball, obviously, over there. So they want to run the ball. And we just spoke about how Brian Flores is going to blitz the heck out of you so you can't run the ball. So something's got to break, and then maybe Herbert's got to air it out, similar to what Jalen Hurts just did, right? So can he handle that? Can they do that? That's what I want to see, and that's kind of going to be the battle. If you're watching it, is like if the Chargers don't have this run game, it's going to get really cool or really scary for them really quickly, because I know how Flores is coming. And then Minnesota, right? What's up with J.J. McCarthy? Probably doesn't play on this short week. Don't think that's going to happen. Strap in. It's going to be another Carson Wentz experience. That can be good. That can be bad. You got to be able to pay the ticket to take the ride, though. So we're going to see what type of experience it's going to be.
Do you think Kevin O'Connell deep down kind of wants Carson Wentz to be the quarterback moving forward, and that JJ's a little bit sore, a little bit longer, and that maybe that's more of a front office move? Which offense do you think, or which quarterback do you think fits the offense that
He wants one that can take care of the ball. He doesn't want the one he just had last week. I think if you asked me this a week prior, look, high ankles are different for everybody. You know, I see Mahomes have a high ankle sprain, plays the next week. I see some guys takes a couple weeks. J.J. McCarthy is taking quite a bit. I don't know if they're rushing that back out there. I don't know if it's to protect him for his future, or it's saying, hey, Carson's playing well. Why don't you just take it easy? We don't need you right now. Well, Carson didn't play well, so they might get that ankle. They might actually start putting ice on that thing for real now. So we'll see. But I think he's got to have a quarterback take care of the ball, because they're so good around him. The defense is generally pretty good. They can run the ball, and they obviously have dynamic play catchers. They just need a quarterback to essentially manage the whole thing. That's what they need right now with the decision they made this year. They're betting on a quarterback that has to be able to manage it.
Love it, Logan. You guys should definitely keep an eye on that game. Head over to fanduel.com/33rd. That is 33RD. First $5 wager hits, $3 to $100 in bonus bets. We got some more show to get to, Logan. I think it's time to talk about it.
Okay, so before we get out of here, we have to talk about our predictions. Mine sucked. I thought that the Jags would win. They actually stayed in Jacksonville. They forgot to come to London. I'm not sure what happened there, but yeah, mine was terrible. Zach's was that Saquon Barkley would rush for 100 yards. That'd be a good game, but not quite 100. But you nailed it. The Travis Hunter touchdown. So for our predictions this week, because we play golf rules, you are the winner. You get to pick first.
Just in case we have the same one, I get to go first. Perfect. Yeah, you know, I've been really hot hand with these rookies, just trying to predict decent games and when it was time. And I think Travis Hunter, as he gets more identified on one side of the ball, would start to play better. And it seemed like he became, before all those stories came out about him being involved in offense, it seemed like he's dynamic when they gave him the ball. So I'm happy. Although he got blown out, he was the best player on their team that day. I'm going to stick with that trend of young players and rookies. I'm going to go with Matthew Golden. Okay, Green Bay Packers. All right. I'm ready to see this guy explode. I'm ready to see him get in the end zone. Obviously, we talked about that matchup with Aaron Rodgers and what that means, and Jordan Love. It's a big game. There's a lot of revenge out there. But I remember how that crowd cheered when they drafted that kid. First round receiver, and how X amount of years, Cynthia, you were probably at the draft. You know how electric it got. Well, I think it's time that he delivers for them with his biggest performance of his career. I'm going to go with a touchdown, a lot of yards. I'm not going to put exact on it, but Matthew Golden's going to pop.
That touchdown's a great prediction. I love that.
Matthew Golden's going to pop this week and definitely show that first-round talent and get on the same page with Jordan Love.
I'm going to steal that for other shows that I'm on, so don't tell anyone that you said it first. But so I'm going to look back to, I'm going to talk about this rematch between the Giants and the Eagles. because this is where I think that the Saquon situation goes ham. Because now, unfortunately, I think the wind is like sort of out of the Giants' sails now. And now we have to see if they can kind of get that mojo back. But I think Saquon Barkley here, he needs a big game. You talk about taking away the left with the right. You talk about how the Giants' front is their strength. Saquon did not have a good showing in this last matchup between the two of them, but I think these are kind of, this is a situation where the cream rises to the top, and Saquon Barkley is absolutely that cream. You can run against that front. That's how you get rid of a pressure front. So don't let the day be ruined for Jalen Hurts. So I think big game Saquon Barkley, at least a touchdown. I'm going a century mark here, but I'm going to do it in scrimmage yards because I like to be cheeky like that. So, it could be like some screen passes. I don't care. Doesn't matter. I just need 100 total yards from Saquon Barkley and a tud. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Let me challenge you on this. Who has more scrimmage yards, him or the Scat Pack Cam Scatterboo? Who has the Saquon out scrimmage yards Scatterboo?
Ooh. No, because Cam Scatterboo has like this like epic. This is going to be the Cam Scatterboo story, right? He is this. I love him. He's a little meathead. He's like my favorite little meathead. He's great, but I feel like he's on this epic run. He wants to do another one of those flips in the end zone, that whole thing. But I still think though that, it, and by the way, there's who else is gonna, I know they have, Daniel Bellinger, who everyone wants to call Cody Bellinger because it's October and people, Yankees, whatever, people like baseball, but Daniel Bellinger or, what's going on with all of that? I don't know. But, maybe we see some Wandale, but there's no Malik Neighbors to kind of steal some of those yards. So they're going to need Cam Scatterboo to go just absolutely berserk. But I still think Saquon has a big day, even if Cam has
There we go. Okay.
crazy. Yeah, I think that's the way to play it right there. All right, do you have any? Where you're going to be in Eastern Michigan this week, right? My home state. Congratulations, you get to go to America's High Five. It's a great
Right.
state.
So what's the town called? I don't want to mispronounce this early in the week.
Ypsilanti.
Ypsilanti. Okay, I got to make
Mhm.
sure I nail that.
You can call it Ipsy if you want to sound like a real local.
I'll go
Ipsy.
to Ipsy. About
Ypsilanti.
to
Yeah,
get
going to
Ipsy.
Ipsy.
About to get tipsy in the Ipsy.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly right. But yeah, no, Ypsilanti, you'll be there. I'll be back. NFL Network, we finally have a show on Sunday morning because there's no international game this week. So everyone can sleep in. You don't need to get up super early on your Sunday. But we'll be right back here next week. So make sure you subscribe, like, follow us on all the socials at Real Logan Ryan, at C Freeland, at NFL IQ Show. Follow on YouTube, the whole thing, and we'll be back with you here next week. And I'm sure that we will have at least a touchdown for Matthew Golden, probably like 600 yards for him, maybe. No, like I think over the century mark, though. I love that one.
Yeah. Hey, look, I've hit on all these rookies. I've hit on Ashton
You're the
Gentry's
rookie
week.
whisperer.
I've hit on Cam Ward's week. Travis Hunter hasn't touched the end zone all year. I decided to pick him for some reason. He hits. Matthew Golden getting in that zone. Hey, yeah, and you got to subscribe because if Denzel Ward is locked into this, that means the players are tuned in. They know that I'm their favorite players podcast. Out of all the podcasts out there that's keeping it real, I'm their favorite players podcast. And we're dropping some real knowledge on this one. I know there's entertaining stuff you can always listen to, but I think we're dropping some real gems
Absolutely.
because we know the game.